What is up, my beautiful D.D.D fam? We got Drip back on another video. And today's video is a requested test hand / discussion video on SHADDOLLs to help people out, whether they're new to the deck or they just always need help piloting. There's nothing wrong with either one of them. It's perfectly fine. Just to be able to get other people's inputs, such as people like myself and everything else like that. Everybody needs help, and that's what we're all here to do, and that's to help one another. So let's go ahead and get into this. One thing I will say is the extra deck. I mentioned before about the whatchamacallit, the not Raijin, but Purgatrio. How myself, I mentioned in the comments. I don't know if you saw in the deck profile. On the comment section, I decided to run Garua in the extra deck instead of Purg. Ever since I did that, it's actually makes Super Poly more like broken than it already is in this list, because this list is like a Omni Hero build. So, let me turn the light real quick. There we go. So it basically makes it more live than it already was, even though it's really already live in this. It makes it where we don't always have to use our own if we don't need to. So I never miss Mud Dragon or anything like that. Guru is just better in every way. You use Super Poly, make Guru in the extra monster zone, and link it off for Gravity Controller, draw a card, and it's free. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get into the video. I just wanted to start shuffling up before we got into this. I'll put the extra deck over here real quick. I am proxying the SHADDOLL Genius, so if you see a card turn around backwards, that's what it is. I have yet to pick one up. But one thing I will say is, because this is not just a test hands video or a combo video, all my videos I do like that are quote-unquote combo videos are always a discussion video too. So if you're new to SHADDOLLs and Invoked and all that, just know that the deck is like a control deck, but also like a mid-range deck at the same time. So the deck really relies on, definitely this variant, relies on interaction with its opponent because of our go second cards, as in like Super Poly and stuff like that. So this deck usually only does like 1 to 2 things when it goes first to try to just get control. And then it plays more when it interacts with its opponent, like via SHADDOLL Fusion and stuff like that, because that's where you get more value out of that. Let me make sure I'm still in frame here, and we are, and we're good. All right, let's go ahead and get into this first test hand. SHADDOLL Fusion, Meltdown, Nadir, Hash, Schism. See, like, this hand is kind of okay, but unless you're used to really combo heavy decks, this is not that kind of deck. This is like, I do a couple things and then pass. So first thing first, it's very simple. Start off with Meltdown. Activate Meltdown. Go get Alistair, Starboy. All right, we got Alistair. Let me zoom out a little bit so we have a little bit more room. Make sure the camera doesn't fall, of course. I apologize. All right. So now we activate the Alistair. Search the invocation. Got the invocation. Standard. Link it away for Magistus. Now we can go invocation. Banish. Banish. For the Macabre. I always put my stuff in defense position because people could always be main decking Lightning Storm. Healing Mash will go to grave. I mean, not even Mash. Jesus. Invocation, sorry. Now we can use the invocation. Place it on top of the deck. Add back the Alistair. Shuffle into the deck. Now we go Nadir. Sending Abcalone to the graveyard. search Ecclesia. Now, this is our hand. App Clones effect. Since we already have Schism, we don't need Schism. We can get Interruption or we can get Draw 2. I would always go for Draw 2 because we have the Interruption through these two. So I would go, unless of course we have like L. If it was L in our hand, it would be a little bit different. So in this case, we're going to add the Windy. And then we have to pitch a card off of Clone's effect as well. So we're going to pitch Windy. Now Windy's effect. We will set the beast. Special, the Ecclesia. Go get the Fleur-de-Lis. Alright, so now we can set our Schism. Now on our opponent's turn, this is our hand, which it doesn't matter because we have a negate with Ash, a negate with Fleur-de-Lis, and then a monster or spell negate with this, preferably a spell because you can get this back instead of having to burn your Alistair. But it all depends. I would save Macabre for as long as you can until you can't anymore. So, and then we also have access to either App Clone, another window. Oh, I mean an App Clone, a window, or a construct. So on our turn, so our Schism's fully live with all of our SHADDOLL cards. Obviously, majority of the time you're going to go window and call it a day. So, but this is basically the standard combo to where like if they attack into this, then you're just going to draw 2 and plus, or if not, they're better off attacking into it. But then again, it doesn't matter because that's what I like about SHADDOLL is it forces interactions and it makes your opponent awkward because they know you're going to plus off of those cards regardless. Once they get flipped or sent to the graveyard. So that's what's really nice about them. But yeah, this hand was actually really good if it went fully interrupted. 1, 2, 3, 4 interruptions / 3 negates. Potentially 5 interruptions if you discard this to buff this if they try to attack over it with something big. So, but yeah, that's it for combo number 1. Let's go ahead and get into combo number 2. All right, here we are at test hand number 2. The combo is basically the same every time. It's just based upon you play. Like I said before, you play with what the deck gives you. If you've seen or have played this deck before, you know that it is very susceptible to bricking. So you just play with what you got. Let's try this again. See what we got. Hopefully we don't brick. And kind of a brick, but we'll take it. We'll take Meltdown. Meltdown. I'll just go ahead and get that ready because I know I'm going to grab it. Grab Alistair. Normal Alistair. Add the Invocation. Now, one thing to note, if you know you're playing against Branded, you never really want to link away Alistair anyways, because even though the Branded deck has trimmed down their Bestial count, you don't want to deal with that because that just makes your Invocation dead because you can get all the utility from the Invocation and Alistair from the field as you would with it in the grave. The only reason we link it away most of the time is to get access to a light to be able to make Macabre. That's it. But most of the time now, the way I play the deck, and I suggest you to play the deck, is to make Caliga first. So in this case, I will go Invocation and not link it away. Sending this. You can either make the Caliga in the extra monster zone if you want to burn it, but I wouldn't worry about it because the Caliga is not that much of a problem for you. Same with Winda. You can play under both very easily. Caliga. Now the Falco effect will activate to set itself. You can set the Super Poly, Invocation effect, Engrave. Set them back. Add back the Alistair. Now you have a Kaliga, which locks him into one monster effect and can only attack with one monster. You can buff its attack with this. You have a Super Poly Live with a free discard through Golden Lord, because you can easily get access to Golden Lord back to your hand. And then Ash Blossom to negate. Granted, you're locked into one monster effect too, so you have to be able to like try to time your stuff properly, if that makes sense. So if you use Ash, you're not going to be able to use Alistair to buff if they try to attack over this or whatever. So you just got to figure out what you're playing against and what you prioritize over what when you do things, pretty much. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's actually very solid because, like I said, since this is live, whatever they're playing, our extra deck is basically open. If it's a light or dark based strategy, our SHADDOLLs are lit, so they're live. So you can you can lock them under Kaliga and Winda in the same turn if you want to on their turn, which is very hard for a lot of decks to get out of. So yeah, it's really nasty when the deck works when it works. But the fact also that we kind of drew Golden Lord off of this hand as a free discard with Super Poly is absolutely nuts. Because Golden Lord, like I mentioned before, my deck profile is absolutely free in this deck. I'll never take it out. It's the best light target. There's no way that Konami will ever give us a better light target unless it's an actual good SHADDOLL light monster, unlike the one that we got in the structure deck like 2 years ago. But yeah, let's go ahead and do another test hand and / discussion. All right, guys, back to another combo test hand number 3. I know all these test hands are kind of going quick and all that, but like I said before, the deck only goes so far before it relies on interaction. Yes, all these are going first combos. I will show you guys a couple of combos going second, which I will talk about which deck we're playing against and stuff like that, which obviously the test hands and stuff like for going second will be against like Cashier, since it's like one of the most represented decks right now. And I'm sure that's going to be the one that a lot of people asked how to play against it and stuff like that. So after this hand will be the next one for that. We'll do a go second hand. Granted, this hand right here would be the perfect go second hand against them, because this or Super Poly. So yeah, you'd be sitting really good. Let me see. Going first, this is a very weak hand. It's basically in some areas, you wouldn't even summon the Ecclesia because you wouldn't be like plussing that hard. It would basically be set Windy, set Super Poly, set Eclipse because you have another interruption, and then leave these two in hand. Eclipse is very good interruption. You could probably use this first before Super Poly if you want to, or you can use Super Poly first. The only reason Book of Eclipse is hard is because it books your own stuff, which in sometimes is fine when you're like, if you're wanting to. That's another really good thing about this card too. I was wanting to say that brings me to my next thing. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but for an example, let's say you exhaust your flip effects, right? Well, you can always use Book of Eclipse, and a lot of people forget that they book your cards too. So since it books your cards, if they attack into it, or next turn, if you still have it, you flip it again and you can use them again. So that's where Book of Eclipse is really nice. Granted, I know in some situations people would rather this be impermanence or something like that, but the fact that you can book anything and not have to deal with floodgate monsters or big monsters or interruption monsters by just using this card, and the utility you get by being able to book your own SHADDOLLs is very nice. Very nice, because you can get more utility out of your SHADDOLLs, your actual doll cards. So that's another thing you want to keep in mind too. So that's sadly, fortunately, it. But for that one, but let's go ahead and shuffle up and do another combo for going second. See you guys in a second. All right, guys, this next combo is just going to be a 2-card combo thing. Going second. I want to go ahead and show this now, just in case if we're doing more test hands and we never get to see these two in hand when we're going second, basically. This is just going to be how far these two can get you alone. And we're going to be pretending we're playing against an aggressive Cashier player, not a conservative one, like myself. Sometimes I do play aggressive, but with the deck, but I like to play conservative. And what I mean by that is an aggressive cashier player will always go for the zone locks and never just end on a Rise Heart. And then the conservative will always end on a Rise Heart to play around nib and stuff like that. So just play a Rise Heart control basically. So we're going to say they locked all 5 of our monster zones, but we still have our extra monster zone, which is all that matters. Which we don't really need our main monster zones that much right now, because we'll out it and get our main monster zones back. So you'll go Meltdown effect. Go if they let it resolve, which they have nothing. Cashier has no negates, so they just let it resolve. And so yeah, so you're facing down no monster zones. You're facing down. This is if they don't have a Rise Heart, by the way. So most of the time, it's kind of hard unless they open to straight gas for them to end on the lock 5 zone and a Rise Heart. That's basically impossible. Very close to impossible. So normally their end board will be on your turn. It'll be Fenrir, double Shangira, then Mind Hacker. Okay, so your Meltdown resolves. You go SHADDOLL Fusion. As long as they don't have Ash, you're golden. You go SHADDOLL Fusion. This is another thing that reminds me. This is just me. This is my opinion and the way I think about this deck. Going second, I always prioritize making Ab Cologne when I'm facing down a board with a bunch of interruptions than I do making Construct. If I'm going first, I prioritize Construct because Construct gets you your is better, in my opinion, at getting you your utility cards and your resources. As where Ab Cologne can do the same, but is better at negating stuff and breaking boards. Yes, I know Construct can destroy special summon monsters, but I think it's better to prioritize Ab Cologne because it can turn stuff off, and under Meltdown, they can't respond to it. So we are going to go sending. Where's that? Where's the proxy? Where's the proxy? There it is. This is the proxy for your whatchamacallit, the Genius. Then you're going to send the Windy. Okay? For a couple of reasons, because Cashtira, even if you use Aerial to banish, if they have access to the Birth, they just get everything back. So it doesn't matter. So you send these two. Okay? Obviously, we only have one monster zone, which is the extra monster zone. Make sure it's still in frame. Yes, we're good. We're good. We're chilling. All right, so Ab Cologne effect mandatory Chainlink 1 because the fusion always has to be Chainlink 1 in order for them not to respond to the rest of the stuff in your Chainlink. That's just how Meltdown always works. So Chainlink 1, Ab Cologne. Chainlink 2, Windy, and just do Chainlink 3, Genius, okay? So now what we're going to do, let's say they have access to Birth, right? Birth, okay? So now what we're going to do, we're not even really worried about Birth because we'll get rid of that later. So Chainlink 1, Ab Cologne. We're going to use Ab Cologne to permanently target one of their Arise Heart, their one Shangira. Preferably the one, this is where you as a player need to keep track of, or have your opponent keep track of while they're comboing, which Shangira locked which zones. Because if you out one, if they have 2 on board, you're only going to get the zones back that one has outed, basically, if that makes sense. So, now, which this is, like I said, pick the one that has the most zones locked. So we pick the one that has the most zones locked. Permanently negate it with the Ab Cologne. Then, we're going to use the Windy to special summon, whatever, it don't matter. But you always usually want to go get something that gives you the most resources, and Beast usually gives you the most card advantage because that's just Yu-Gi-Oh 101. Decks lose when you don't have card advantage. So you get the Beast. And the level 5, so you always usually want to get it out of deck anyways. And now we'll use the Genius to target the Fenrir to negate the Fenrir, and they can't activate the Fenrir for the rest of the turn. So now we don't have to worry about our stuff being banished. Okay? Because it turns its effect off for the rest of the turn. So before we go any further, just off of one card, granted the Meltdown did play a part, but just off of SHADDOLL Fusion, we turned off one card. Granted, we don't get our zones back yet because he hasn't left the field. Shangira is a lingering effect. But we turned off the Shangira from being able to protect itself from battle, and we turned off the Fenrir to prevent our stuff from being banished. So now, oh, actually, I take that back. Sorry, I can't even special this. Sorry. I can't even special this because we have no zones. I'm terrible at this game. I'm sorry. But no, it's fine. We still need the wind in the graveyard for a reason. So you still need to send Windy. You'll see in a second, obviously, if you don't already know. So we'll go to battle phase, attack over 1. So if they did the 5 zone lock, that means we'll get 3 zones back if you chose the one with the most zones. So let's just say it's the last 3 zones over here. Okay. So now we attacked over it. Main phase 2. We can go normal summon the best boy. Go and get the invocation. Got the invocation, okay? Now, there's a couple of things we can do. Let's see. We can go invocation. Banish the Alistair. Banish the Windy. If you saw where this is going, then shout outs to you. Make the Raijin. Raijin effect to book the other Shangira. Now that the other Shangira is booked, you have access to all your zones now. You get all your zones back. So now the invocation, shuffle it back to add back the Alistair to hand. Okay. Now you can do a couple of things. What's really nice too about the whatchamacallit being booked, since one got destroyed and one got booked, they can't special nothing during your during their standby phase now. So now what you could do is link off that for gravity controller into a gravity controller, obviously. Effect. If they have access to birth, your number 1 priority is need to get rid of birth. Okay? So this is where you just, even though it's not really plussing in card advantage, you need to get rid of that birth, because if you let them go on next turn, no matter what interruption you have, they're going to crack your board. They're going to completely break your board and banish your resources. So add the dragon, dump the dragon, and then pop the birth. Now, that's just off of 2 cards. You have 4 other cards in hand still to be able to do stuff with because you went second. We only use 2 cards. We use Meltdown and we use Shaddol Fusion. Okay? So, just off of those 2 cards, also Raijin is going to put in work against them too. So, they also have, so basically all they're left with is a Mind Hacker, which doesn't really do nothing because nothing was banished face down. And all you gotta do is try to prevent them from banishing face down. They have one mind hacker, 1 Fenrir, and then the 1 Shangira, which is booked, but they can't get access to that until they flip it during their standby, during their main phase. And then this is going to put in work whenever they try to do anything. So if they don't draw into a birth or an extender of some sorts, or like if they go Theosis, target the Fenrir, you just go Raijin, flip the Fenrir, then the Theosis will not resolve because the target is no longer there. It's just all about timing your stuff, and you can make more than this if your 4 other cards in hand was potentially just gassed out, like L Shaddol Fusion or something like that. You can set the L and then go off that way by using another doll in hand or something to make a window or whatever the hell it is, whatever you want to make. It's just your stuff is unlimited. I just wanted to show you what 2 cards can get you and how much you can crack the board just off of 2 cards. Let's go ahead and start another test hand. All right, guys, let's get into this last test hand video. This test hand video is going to be basically the last one because there's not really much else I can show you guys. It's all just depends on what the deck gives you. But this is going to be against aggressive lock 5 zones. No monster zones. This is our opening 5. This will be our 6th draw. At least it's a light target. we basically drew the combo that we needed to lock them out and whatever. So no monster zones. Let's see. We can go off the rip. SHADDOLL Fusion. And send. We don't have access to Invoked engine, so we don't even really need to send Wendy. We send Ariel if we wanted to, because they have an extra monster in the extra monster zone. Send Genius, Ariel, make. Obviously, you could have made Shikanaga, but there's no real reason because you're not going first. For app, Chainlink 1 app, Chainlink 2 Genius, Chainlink 3 Ariel. Ariel is the one that matters the least, so you always want to make it 3 just in case they have some kind of interruption, no matter what it is. You never know. So this will turn off 1 Shining Gear, like I said before. This will banish 3 from their graveyard, and this will turn off their Fenrir or whatever else they summoned in the standby phase. Now, what you can do is let's see, what I want to do. We can go. We can go Super Poly. Take the app clone and their Fenrir, and then now we can make Shikanaga. So now they have a Shingira turned off. They lost their that, and we have a negate. We're going to discard the Fleur de Lis for cost for the Super Poly, by the way. I know some of y'all are probably asking Ash. Ash wouldn't have really done nothing on their turn or prevent them from getting to the lock 5. So yeah, I know. Just in case you were asking or wondering, this wouldn't have stopped them from getting the lock 5. So now we can use App Clone's effect to basically fuel our resources for that, so we can get more SHADDOLLs in hand. Add the Hedgehog, pitch the Hedgehog. We can add the Beast if we want to get a draw, or if they have a the Birth, we can add this and then just discard this off Shik to be able to proc Shik's effect and proc the Dragon. So now, what we can do is we can go battle phase, attack over the Shingira that has the most zones locked, get the 3 back. You have a couple options here. You can, because you still have your normal summon, you can either set the dragon, and if they tack into it, it can return 1 to the hand or the deck or whatever, the extra deck, which is really good, which is probably what I would do. Unless you want to destroy the Birth. It just depends. If they have access to Birth, I would keep this in hand. If they don't have access to Birth, I would keep this in hand. So let's say they do have access to Birth. The reason why is because you need the graveyard effect off of this to get rid of their Birth when they activate a monster effect, to completely get rid of and hinder their combo from playing. So let's say they have access to Birth. We'll set the Wendy. Okay. Now, during their standby phase, they'll most likely... you want to save this Ash just in case they have a Theosis when they're trying to rebuild the board. They're going to use that monster. They're going to use their Shingira to try to special summon 1 to get more card advantage during the standby phase. You just go Dragon during their standby phase. You go Shikanaga, the discard Dragon, to negate and destroy or whatever, and then you use the Dragon effect to pop the Birth, which it makes them go -2 because they have to have a Birth in hand to be able to continue playing. And if they have a Theosis to try to play, you can use this to Ash that, so then they don't get that either. And then they have no real way to beat over this, even if they have the even if they attack over this with Mind Hacker. it don't matter. You're gonna get a SHADDOLL Fusion back from grave to be able to plus off again on their turn, and then this will special summon during your turns if they don't attack into it. So at that point, you're pretty much just lit from there. It's just the Rise Heart is the problem in this deck. To face down with this deck, I will say. I was just checking the time. Sorry. If you're facing down a Rise Heart, it's very difficult because your SHADDOLL Fusion will go super neg. So the interaction I could tell you to interact with that would be hope and pray you have Super Poly, or Book of Moon. I mean Book of Eclipse. Sorry, I don't know why I keep calling it Book of Moon. Book of Eclipse. Those are the ones that are going to be your saving grace against that. I know this kind of sounds like a bad thing to say, but there's no other real way for this deck's interaction with that, because the second you normal summon Alistair, they're just going to banish him with the Rise Heart. Any smart Cashier player would. So then you're getting almost no value at all out of your invocation. That's why I said before, when this deck profile, definitely in the deck profile, in the format, you get more value out of your SHADDOLL cards than you do your Invoke cards. Your Invokes just gives you different attributes and stuff like that for your Super Poly, but other than that, your SHADDOLLs is what give you the most value, hence this profile. I mean, not the profile, but the combo and discussion. But yeah, Super Poly and Book of Eclipse is what's really going to carry this deck into an Rise Heart. I know that kind of, like I said, it sounds niche and stupid, and there should be other ways, but it's always, no matter what it is, it's hard for any deck's engine to counter that card, because if you go back and look at it, everybody who's countering that card, 90% of them is using non-engine, which, in what I mean by non-engine, is like Book of Eclipse, Super Poly, Kaijus, anything that Imperm, top decking and Imperm. It's always non-engine that counters it. So this is just sadly one of those decks that has a rough time countering it with engine, unless it's the SHADDOLLs. So, but that's it for the video, guys. I hope it helped you out, and I hope answered a lot of your questions. I enjoy talking to you guys. I enjoy making these videos for you guys. Definitely when I get to make SHADDOLL stuff. But please, please, please hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already as well. Bell notifications so you never miss an upload. Check the description for all the ways to support me. Patreon, Discord, TikTok, Twitter, all the ways to support me and become closer to me, and I would love you guys so much if you did check it out. But with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful night, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this video. Hope you all are staying safe out there. And it's your boy Brendan, aka Drip, signing out until next time. Peace. Good dueling, my guys.